All right, well, let's talk about how IPM can affect crop resilience, or the ability for a crop to sort of thrive in a wider set of environmental conditions, or different conditions. And let's unpack that. IPM stands for Integrated Pest Management, and that in itself is a mouthful. It's to fully understand integrated pest management, you are so you sort of look at sort of the cornerstones of IPM. And so you're looking at scouting, knowing what the problems are in a field, trying to set up management strategies that are going to be there before the disease or the problem occurs. So you're trying to be a little bit proactive instead of reactive. And then you're also trying to set things up in a way where it's economically feasible. You're not doing things where you are depleting your funds, but also you're not depleting the environment. And so you're growing your crop in a way that you're setting up for the future, for future generations to have good soil and good resources in place. And so how can IPM affect the resilience? I'm standing in front of a cornfield, and you'll see as you zoom in, you'll see tar spot, you'll see gray leaf spot, you'll see northern corn leaf blight. In a year where you have a lot of humidity and a lot of rainfall during the season, you can get a lot of different diseases. And so one of the things you're looking at IPM is knowing when do you need to step in and manage those diseases in a way that is going to be profitable and also good for the environment and good for the farmer. And so those are just a lot of decisions that need to be made. And so IPM is going to come in and help with those decisions by gathering information and helping you sort of set in place sort of an educated response to what you're seeing in that field. So that's one component of it. A second one, so that's the decision-making part, and that's really being driven by scouting. And that scouting is, sometimes it's just walking through a field and looking and seeing what's there. Sometimes I'll get calls from farmers or from consultants, and they'll say, hey, I'm walking through my field right now and I am seeing X. And that to me is a great sign of gathering that information and knowing what exactly is going on in that field to help, again, make decisions. Sometimes it might be using aerial images, satellite images, drones flying over the field to take images and gather information. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to walk into that field. Sometimes it's looking at soil samples and looking at your nutrient levels, or looking at the soybean cyst nematode levels in a soybean field. So again, anything where you're gathering information and making that decision. One way to think about this for me is, I always think of when you walk into a doctor's office, that doctor, you're filling out a questionnaire before you go in there. And then the first thing you do when you sit down is they start asking you questions, and they're trying to gather information, because whatever they find, all of that information that they're gathering, either from the questionnaire or from their back and forth with you, is helping them diagnose whatever problems you may have. And that's what IPM sort of falls in that same premise. You're trying to gather as much information as you can to make as good of a decision. And then when you do that, you will be setting up management strategies that are needed and timely, and also and hopefully you're avoiding some of those strategies that you could be using that might be destructive to the environment, and where you might not need them if you sort of go through that decision making process. And so that's how IPM can help with crop resilience.